The 2014 NBA season was marked by the Heat's quest for a three-peat. Widely considered the best team since the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, the Heat battled throughout the year to cement their spot in history as one of the 5 teams in NBA history to three-peat. However, as all eyes were in the East, what would become one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history was brewing in the West, with the Lob City Clippers standing in their way in the first round of the playoffs. This round 1 matchup, filled with talent and controversy, would change the landscape of the NBA for years to come. The Golden State Warriors were the surprise team of the season. With just one playoff appearance in 19 years, no one expected the Warriors to make any noise in the West. However, thanks to star point guard Steph Curry, this was not the case. Formerly known as an injury-prone player, he put it all together in the regular season, leading the league in three-pointers and making his first of many All-Star appearances. Around Curry was a multitude of role players including Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. At the helm, former New York Knicks point guard Mark Jackson. Many gave Jackson a ton of praise for the work he did this year, blowing the team's preseason expectation out of the water. This combination of talent and coaching allowed the Warriors to clinch the 6th seed in the West. The Clippers, on the other hand, were already well established. Although they were a franchise filled with misery throughout their history, they had begun to build a competent roster at the beginning of the 2010s. This year, not only did they have hopes for a deep playoff run, they had championship aspirations. They had one of the best starting lineups in the NBA, which included the trio of Chris Paul, star point guard acquired in a trade a few years back, Blake Griffin, former #1 pick who had blossomed into an all-NBA power forward, and DeAndre Jordan, a former second-round pick who surprised many by becoming a high-flying, all-defensive big man. This high-flying combination was known around the league as Lob City, although the Clippers were one of the most interesting teams in the league and finished as the 3rd seed in the West. Many considered the Clippers to be the little brother of the Los Angeles Lakers. However, due to an injury from Kobe Bryant, the Lakers were teetering, and many within the Los Angeles Clippers organization, including owner Donald Sterling, believed that the deep playoff run would stop the little brother narrative. However, as we would learn, this was not the case. Going into this series, these teams do not like each other. With both teams being located in close proximity in California, these teams had gotten to know each other throughout the years. On Christmas Day, these teams faced off in a must-see matchup which involved Blake Griffin and Andrew Bogut gaining into a shoving match under the basket, which resulted in both players being ejected from the game. Many in Golden State thought the Clippers were a dirty team due to their extremely physical style of defensive play. All of this bad blood came to a head in the playoffs. The series started off in Los Angeles and it was a good one throughout. Given the history of the teams, the officials reffed this game tight, which resulted in many common fouls being called. This resulted in a total of 51 fouls being called in the game, as well as Blake Griffin fouling out in just 18 minutes of action. Many fans at the time viewed this performance from the crew as unacceptable. However, the Warriors were able to capitalize on the fouls and stole the win from the Clippers 109-105. Game 2 was not so nice to the Dubs. The Clippers were pissed after losing Game 1, and it showed in Game 2. They forced 26 turnovers from Golden State and held Steph Curry to 1 3-pointer on the night. Blake Griffin went on a tear, scoring 35 points in only 3/4 of play. Although this game was a disaster for Golden State, they returned to Golden State with the series tied, which meant they were still very much in this series still. Game 3 in Oracle was another close game. The teams traded blows back and forth throughout. The Clippers held on to a 2-point lead with 7 seconds left to play. Unfortunately for LA, the ball was in the hands of Steph Curry. In his way was Chris Paul. Throughout this game, Paul had been relentless on Curry, body checking and swiping at him throughout. However, none of this mattered now, as one shot could end it all. Curry got the shot off with 4 seconds left, then airball. Curry was furious and was in the face of official Ken Mauer until he left the floor. When asked if Curry thought he got fouled, he responded saying 100% either way. The Clippers came out the victors with all the momentum on their side. All this momentum was killed by the Donald Sterling controversy. For those who are unaware, a clip of 81-year-old Donald Sterling talking about minorities was leaked to the public after Game 3 by his girlfriend at the time. If you remember, Donald Sterling was the owner of the Clippers at the time. Needless to say, everyone with a properly functioning brain was outraged. As a sign of solidarity, All of the Clippers players took off their pre-game uniforms prior, which sported the Clippers logo before Game 4. Even though an investigation by the NBA was ongoing, there was still a pivotal Game 4 to play in Golden State. However, this was never very close. Golden State took control early and easily. However, it is hard to blame the Clippers due to the off-the-court controversy. Ramona Selburn reported that the Clippers only had spent a half hour making adjustments for this game, which wasn't really enough time. Although we can't blame the Clippers, the Warriors still came out hot and went back into Los Angeles with the Clippers on their heels. One day before Game 5, Adam Silver made his announcement about Donald Sterling.
Accordingly, effective immediately, I am banning Mr. Sterling for life any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA. I am also fining Mr. Sterling $2.5 million, the maximum amount allowed under the NBA Constitution.
Although this decision was well received, the Sterling controversy launched this series into a national media spotlight. Many questioned how the lack of experience from Golden State would affect this. Many also believed that the announcement from Silver would give the Clippers a much-needed emotional boost, which leads us to the crucial Game 5. Although both teams started off a little rusty, the Clippers started with the lead and continued to lead throughout the game. The Clippers were hounding the Warriors in this game unlike any other game of this series. This led to some frustration on the Warriors. However, in the second half, the Warriors got their bearings straight and started to match the play of the Clippers. On the defensive side of the ball, Warriors forward Draymond Green was giving Blake Griffin a ton of problems and eventually baited Blake Griffin into getting an offensive foul. This was his fourth of the game, which required him to take a seat. However, since the Clippers were still in the lead going into the fourth quarter, the Warriors decided to hack at DeAndre Jordan. This was a strategy deployed in the regular season, but not seen in this series until this point. The basic idea for doing this is to put a very poor free throw shooter at the line and hope that he misses. Unfortunately for the Warriors, DeAndre Jordan was money that day, making 9 of 17 free throws. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Dubs, giving the Clippers a 3-2 lead in the series heading back to Oracle. With their backs against the wall, many expected the Warriors to feel the pressure and collapse. However, this was the opposite of what happened. Steph Curry was much more aggressive as compared to Game 5. Once again, the physicality as shown in the other games was shown in this game. Although there were points within this game when the Warriors went cold, they used the crowd to their advantage, throwing down a dunk or making a three-pointer to get the crowd back into it. In the closing minutes, Andre Iguodala came up huge, draining a three-pointer and causing Blake Griffin to foul out. The Warriors came out on top 199, forcing a Game 7 in LA heading into Game 7. All the momentum was in the Warriors' hand. They had just won a crucial game and were seeming to get hot at the perfect time. However, many questioned if the talent and experience would be too much for Golden State to handle. This resulted in the Clippers being 6.5-point favorites heading into the game. Mark Jackson assured the media that the team was just treating this as any other game, and this was proven within the first few minutes. The Dubs started off hot, gaining a 32-22 lead. The Clippers knew the way they were getting out of this hole was to be aggressive, and this is exactly what they did. Chris Paul made the life of Steph Curry absolute hell. Curry finished the game with 16 free throws, but Paul ended the game with 4 steals. Curry had never experienced this type of physicality from any man in his life. Going into half, the Warriors were up 64-56. After half, role players J.J. Redick and Matt Barnes came up huge for the Clippers, combining for 16 points in the quarter. This was good enough to give the Clippers a 87-84 lead in the fourth. It appeared the physicality of the Clippers was starting to get to the Warriors. However, the Warriors and Curry did everything they could to stay in the game. With 1 minute left, the Clippers were hanging on to a 114-111 lead. With one stop, the Warriors could tie the game. However, Blake Griffin had other plans, making an and one to bring the lead to 5.
Holy shit.
Unfortunately for the Dubs, this hill was too big to climb. The aftermath of this series was the reason this video was made. The Clippers went on to lose in the next round to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This was the last true great season of the Lob City Clippers. Within a few years, all 3 of the players were on different teams. Overall, the Lob City team didn't make the conference finals once. This was a huge failure for everything the franchise put into the team. After the season, Donald Sterling sold the team to Steve Ballmer for $2 billion. Ballmer is still the acting owner of the team. For the Warriors, I think we all know what happened. Although he had an amazing season, the Warriors fired Mark Jackson after this series for internal reasons. Jackson has not gotten a head coach position since, and many believe that he has been dealt a short stick. Either way, the Warriors went on to win the championship in the next season, and everyone on the team took a step up. Steph Curry became a superstar, Klay Thompson became one of the best shooters of all time, and Draymond Green became an all-time defensive stopper. This team turned into an absolute dynasty, winning 4 championships after this series. This dynasty was known for having the greatest accomplishments in NBA history. They had the greatest record in the league when they won 73 games. They had the greatest team in NBA history once they added Kevin Durant to the star-studded team. And they had the greatest choke in NBA history when they blew a 3-1 lead to the GOAT LeBron James.